Hi there, Panthers. Mr. Yoder here. I'm the orchestra director at Hamilton Southeastern, and I'm here to show you the string family of instruments today. We are so blessed here at HIJH to be able to offer you 4 different options to play in the string family. We have the violin, the viola, the cello, and the double bass, which is what I have right here. And to demo those instruments for you, I've asked 3 of my very good friends who are all professional musicians to show you what each instrument sounds like and tell you a bit about it. So we're gonna get started first with Mr. Butler and the violin.
Hello everyone, it's Mr. Butler, and right here I'm holding a violin. I love the violin because it's the smallest out of all of the instruments, and it is also the highest pitched instrument in the orchestra family. So whenever you're playing the violin, you can play something more slow and lyrical. Or you can do something more fast and fun. All right, so there's the violin for you.
All right, friends, so that was the violin. Thank you, Mr. Butler, for that awesome demonstration. So the violin, again, the smallest instrument in the string family, right? And because it's the smallest, it's also the highest in pitch. So if you're a person who really likes those higher pitched sounds, the violin might be for you. We're gonna move on to the viola now, and I'm gonna demo that instrument myself. Hi everyone, it's Mr. Yoder here, and I am holding in my hands a viola. Now I want to draw your attention to the fact that the viola looks a lot like the violin, but it is not a violin. It is larger, and therefore its pitch is slightly lower. In the orchestra, it's what we consider a middle voice. So for comparison, here's the violin, and here's a viola. You can see the size difference there, right? And we know that in the string world, the lower strings are always larger. So the larger the instrument, the lower the pitch, all right? So the viola has a beautiful mellow tone, all right? And it can also do a little bit of what the violin can do in terms of fiddling. Right? So the viola, high range is here, lower range gets all the way down here. And people oftentimes forget about this instrument because it looks so much like its smaller cousin, the violin. Don't forget about the viola. It's a gorgeous instrument and a great option for you if you like those middle mellow voices. The viola. All right, so that's the viola. Remember, not the same thing as a violin, slightly larger and pitched just a little bit lower. We would consider this to be a middle voice. If you're someone who knows about vocal ranges, I would consider the viola to be the alto voice, which is a middle voice. Very beautiful instrument, beautiful mellow sound. So if you're drawn to those mellow, middle level pitch sounds, the viola might be for you, and we need lots of viola players because they are so critical to what we do in orchestra. We're gonna move right on to my good friend Andrew now, who's gonna show you the cello.
Hi, I'm Andrew Elliott, and this is my cello Victoria. Look how pretty. I have had her since I was about 13 or 14 years old, and I started studying cello in 5th grade with Mrs. Radomski on the south side of Indianapolis. And I am so glad that I chose cello. I love it so much, and I love that it has kind of a similar range to a human voice, which makes it feel really relatable. It can be really low, and be higher. You can play with the bow, which is super cool. You can also pluck. You can hit your strings with your bow, which almost sounds like raindrops. All sorts of different ways to play it. And I love that it can be every kind of emotion. It can be slow and a little bit sad. It can be upbeat and happy and fast. I particularly love to play the more romantic songs, something like this. Isn't that lovely? I think you should choose cello. I'm biased, but I love it, and I think you will too.
Thank you, Andrew, for that awesome demo. Again, this is the cello. It is on the lower end of the middle voices, and this is the only string instrument that you have to sit down to play. So if you feel like you're someone who enjoys sitting, all right, you enjoy sitting, would rather sit than stand, the cello might be for you. I personally think it is the most beautiful string instrument when it's played well, which all of you will have the opportunity to do. So I hope you'll consider the cello. We're gonna move on now to my friend Alex to show you the double bass. And here's a fun fact for you. When I first started teaching, Alex was my student, and I started him on bass many years ago. And he now has a master's degree in bass performance. So, very cool guy, great to learn from. Let's learn a little more about the bass with Alex. Here we go.
Hi, I am bass guru Alexandra Cazares. As a bass player, I can play classical, jazz, and pop. What is common between all three? It is the low range. It's the big body and the long strings. It's longer than the violin strings. It's almost like, it looks like a violin, but it's huge, right? I can either play with a bow, slow, or I can pluck. Just like, that's very common in jazz. So maybe you know this one if I pluck. Or, so that was Baby Shark. What about Baby Shark's cousin? Do you know that one? It's from a famous movie. So, double bass.
All right, so that is the bass, and I'll tell you, in order to play the bass, you have to be a very cool person, which I know you all are. The bass is the foundation of our orchestra. It is the lowest pitch in the room, and it is so important. So we're always looking for fantastic bass players, and I hope that perhaps you might be one of them. Let's wrap it up. All right, so you've had a chance to hear and see all four of the instruments we can offer you a chance to play as a sixth grader here at HIJH, and I want to answer a couple of questions that I always get, all right? And if you have others, of course, you can always reach out and talk to me. I'm happy to answer them, but there are two questions I always get about orchestra instruments, and they're about these big guys right here, the cello and the bass. Obviously, much larger instruments than the violin and viola, and one of the questions I always get is, how am I supposed to take this instrument home on the bus? The answer is, you don't have to. You will have an instrument at home that you'll use for home practice, and we will provide you an instrument here at school that you'll use for school practice if you play the cello or the bass. So you don't have to worry about taking those instruments back and forth. Another question I oftentimes get asked is, I'm a really small person, but I really want to play the bass. Can I play an instrument that's that big if I haven't grown or I'm not as big? The answer is absolutely. The cool thing about string instruments is that they come in different sizes, just like people do. So if you're a smaller person, we'll start you off on a smaller bass. And then as you grow, we will get you larger instruments to fit your size. So I don't want you to be discouraged or think that you can't play one of these larger instruments just because you're a smaller person right now. You absolutely can, all right? So, as I said before, if you have any other questions about the string family, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is right down there, all right? And I'm always happy to answer those questions for you. Really hope you'll consider an instrument from the string family. We have a lot of fun in the Panther Orchestras, and we're looking forward to seeing you.